Okay, so we're going to see how this works. So you'll do a bit of a demonstration. So I'm
Yeah, let's
looking
do it.
forward to that.
So this is the Lore Masters deck. I have an alpha copy of. This is like early preliminary material. So this is none of this is final. This is like a sort of a test copy, and I've put it in one of the story engine storage boxes, and we'll do a card draw here. So I recommend starting by drawing a faction card. Now every card is double-sided. So the front side has what I call primary cues, which are like really basic. It's like, what kind of faction is this? And the back side has these more specific cues that will describe the main card once we've decided on a primary cue. So to start out, yeah, let's go ahead and pick one of these cues. So we could make our faction.
Let me ask. Do you need the story engine deck to use the lore masters deck, or can you use
No,
them separately? Oh, okay.
totally standalone. Yeah, it's totally
Okay.
standalone. Yeah, and this box says Story Engine. It is just a storage box. Inside, the only thing I have here is the Lore
Okay.
Masters deck. So
Okay.
every card you see will be from the Lore Masters deck. So we can make our faction a Heterodoxy, a Horde, a Dominion, or a Team. What would you like to go with?
Let's do what is a heterodoxy?
A Heterodoxy, I think, is a faction movement within a religion that that has its own series of like beliefs, belief systems that are counter to the main religion.
Okay, let's do that one.
All right, we're gonna do Heterodoxy. Then I'm gonna draw another faction card, and we're gonna pick one of these 4 cues to tuck under our Heterodoxy to describe it. So the cues are linked to a conspiracy about an event, run by a council. I'm reading these backwards on my screen because it's mirrored, so I just told it so I can see it, not backwards. Linked to, run by a council. Their agenda is to unleash a monster on the world, or they have a trait that they worship a specific aspect of or avatar of a deity.
Oh, let's do the monster.
Ooh, love it. Okay, so you'll see here that on the monster cue, we have a, let's get it in focus, there we go. On the monster cue, there's another icon, which is for the creature type of card. So this is going to connect to another card. It's going to connect to a creature. So I'm going to put that right there. And right now, because we have that icon, it tells us that we're going to draw a quick secondary cue here. So we're going to decide what the creature is. It can be, oh, we have to do Corvid. This is the Artsy Raven podcast, so I think we have to choose Corvid. But
Okay.
Corvid, it could be a songbird, it could be a kelp, like it could be like they're trying to unleash a monstrous seaweed that'll spread across the ocean, or it can be an elemental.
Okay, Corvid.
All right, so they're trying to unleash some kind of Corvid on the world, and we have some kind of crow or raven cult, and I love that. I love raven everything. All right. So we're going to do another cue for the faction here. So we've got that it was founded on a whim or a dare, that they are prone to nepotism, that they have an agenda to dismantle a system or institution, and that would connect to another faction card. So which faction are they trying to dismantle, which institution or system? Then we have a trait here that they can augur the future using a specific material, and to flesh that out, we draw another material card.
Oh, how about the future one?
All right, so we're going to do auguring the future. So I'll put that on this side and we'll tuck that under. Boop. And we are also going to now draw a material card. So can they augur the future using horn, sap, meat, or a rock?
I guess rock.
Yeah, I like the idea of like maybe like casting rune stones or
Yeah, stones.
yeah, or every now and then, I think there's some kind of mancy in real life lore where like the way that something breaks is supposed to give you an information about the future. So it could be like you shatter a stone, you look at the pattern of the break and decide where. Cool. All right, we're gonna do another one. They could have the trait that they're highly secretive. They could be master trainers of a particular type of creature. They could have an agenda to defeat another faction, or they could be founded on different principles than they operate on today.
Oh my gosh. About against another faction.
Sweet. I like that they're assembling some kind of like Raven army to defeat their enemies. All right, is that other faction going to be a nation, a reserve, a cult, or a gang?
It has to be a nation, I think. Bigger.
Okay.
Bigger.
So taking down the system, taking down the nation. And then we'll draw one last one here. And they can have a background where they are linked to a war crime. They can have a confusing or complicated constitution. They can consider a specific location to be sacred, or they can lobby for a specific political or social issue.
Probably the political issues. They're taking down a nation, right?
Yeah. So we don't
Mm,
have to decide yet what that issue is. And in fact, I think if
yeah.
we want to expand on the nation, we could learn a little bit more about what they're against, which will tell us what they're for. So the next step, we could just leave it at this and go from
Hmm.
here and do some writing and ideating, or we can expand our lore web a little bit. So would you want to learn more about either the Raven, the Rock, or the Nation?
Let's do the nation.
To the nation. All right, and we'll stop after 2 here,
Yeah.
but we can do a little bit more expanding. So when you expand a prompt, this is where you get to start drawing on the wild cards. So
Mhm.
wild cards, they look like this, and they have they're double-sided to only have those secondary prompts, like the light
Mhm.
side prompts, and you can pick from any of the 8. So this nation can be welcoming, majestic, loving, diplomatic, rigid, dappled, acrimonious, or refreshing.
Rigid.
A rigid. I like that because it's again we're fighting the system here. And so when you expand a card, you
Yeah.
rotate it so that the cue that you want to use is facing you. So you only
Ah.
ever have to pay attention to the word that is facing you.
Mhm.
The words that aren't on those primary cards, you can just
Yeah.
ignore. And then to help you remember how your lore web grew and expanded, you'll always know that you started with the card that has 4 secondary cues around it. And then you can follow these arrows on the wild cards out from that card to see how it expanded. So those 2 arrows say, hey, it went from here to here. You can actually like follow and remap your lore web's growth and reverse engineer it. And it helps you sort of follow your own thinking when you return to look at the prompt you made. So we have a rigid nation, and then we're going to draw a couple more secondary prompts for that. So the nation can believe in the rule of the strong. They can have a background where they have a doctrine or founding principles that are inspired by a type of creature. They can have an agenda to resolve a bitter leadership struggle, and we could draw a figure card to figure out who the leader is. Or they can operate by a strict code.
Oh, let's do the leader one.
Love it. All right, and then we'll quickly draw a leader card to figure out who that is. So is that leader a defender, a mariner, an inspector, or a poet involved in this leadership conflict?
Um. Oh gosh. I guess a defender.
A defender. It's starting to feel like maybe a military nation, so that would make
Yeah.
sense. Or a very militaristic nation, like it's got that rigid kind of military vibe. All right, just 2 more cards here, and then we'll be done our little lore web of 2. Is this nation, are they keepers of predictions or prophecies? Do they have an agenda to guard or capture an animal spirit or deity, which would be really interesting because they could be like, they could have an agenda
Yeah.
to stop that corvid. They could be very bad at public relations, or they can be experts at harvesting or working with a particular material.
Well, let's do the capturing the creature.
Sweet. And if we wanted to, this is like a bonus mechanic. I try to keep the demo simple, but I always get
Hmm.
excited about the extra features. A little bonus mechanic that I love is you can tuck two aspects at the same time by putting that at a diagonal. So we could have that they're very bad at public relations, which I'm interested in because I like they're a military nation that just has a very bad rep for being like for these shows of force and violence. And then we can also have our capture an animal spirit or deity, and they are the ones who are trying to stop our corvid. And that would be a 2-card prompt. And from here, we could continue if we wanted to, like pull out that defender, figure out who this leader in the leadership struggle is. We could learn more about the corvid and its traits and properties. We could learn more about this rock and maybe find out about what other properties it has or why it helps them augur the future. And you can spin out from there. And if at any point you're like, yeah, you know what, I want to change that agenda, you just pull the card out. You can either rotate it to a different prompt or you could draw in a whole new card. It's a very fluid system that becomes very easy to like rejig and play around with. But it's just a fun way to like get you started, get your more playful, creative brain engaged in writing before the editor brain wakes up and starts telling you like, no, it's a bad idea. And it moves the starting line for being creative up much earlier so that you can get to the part where you're creating and building the material that you're going to write with.
Oh gosh, it's almost like maybe you could sell like a blank journal for people to write down stuff as they go on, or if someone messes up their cards.
That's where we're definitely looking at how can we come up with a really good journal for supporting the different types of prompts that people can write and making sure that like all the linked cards can be together in the same set of entries. So we're playing around with ways to do that. The other thing that we're working on is this is a, oh, I shouldn't show this because this is not what the final is going to look like, but this was like the first prototype of our little token set, where if you wanted to show like a connection between two cards outside of just these, you can do these little, leave yourself a little trail of breadcrumbs,
Mm.
laying out a little physical connection between like, here's the, oops, wrong color, between the corvid and the defender, or between the heterodoxy and the nation.
Okay, very cool. So, when is your Kickstarter running?
So we're actually trying out a new platform called BackerKit, which has been previously like a pledge manager for helping people
Oh, okay.
manage their pledges after they run a Kickstarter, has launched their own crowdfunding platform. And I really like a lot of the features. And I think that they're being really, really good about listening to creators and what features creators want for their crowdfunding. So we are going to be one of the earlier projects that are launching on their new platform. And it'll be running from June 20th until July 21st. So just a little over a month that people can go and check that out. And if you go to storyenginedeck.com/lore, that'll redirect you to the BackerKit page.
Okay, and yeah, we'll put a link in the podcast notes for people to follow. Um, so thank you very much, Peter, for spending time with us. And it sounds like an awesome product. So I hope that the people that are writers or storytellers, would be interested in playing around with this. And you had mentioned children. Like, were you demonstrating this at schools or?
I have not gone into schools to demonstrate it,
Okay.
but we in our first campaign, because it surprised me the scope that it took on, I needed to make up a lot of stretch goals very quickly, and I ended up deciding, because so many educators were emailing me about it because they thought this would be really great to use in creative writing classrooms, I decided to just, one of the big stretch goals that we kept returning to was, let's make some more copies available to educators for free. And we plan to return to that model of making some of these kits available for schools for free. So we've just always had a very good relationship with educators. We always release a set of lesson plans that make it really easy to integrate the deck into the classroom. We've made free PDF decks available to educators to use if they want to be able to integrate it in their classroom. So we're going to keep on going with that and making this tool available. This one, because it's a little bit more complex and there's a little bit more technique to how you use it, I think we might have a little bit higher of a grade that we're aiming for like what student is this ideal for. But again, with all of our decks, the first thing in the guidebook, it's not a rule book, it's a guidebook, because there's suggestions, not like firm rules. And the first like rule, so to speak, is that you can change any rule or guideline that isn't helping you create and that isn't serving your creative purposes. And I have found that like kids are really good at just like picking up the cards, looking at them, and then kind of like with Lego kits, where like they'll look at the box, they'll look at the Lego, and they'll just build what they want, and it's way cooler than like whatever was on the box. They'll often do that anyway. So I'm very excited to see like if you just hand this kit to a kid with no instructions, what do they build with it? And it's always fun. It's always fun to see.
Okay, well, good luck on your campaign. And once again, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.